In one video, we're going to answer all of your questions about all of the MacBook generations, including the newest ones that have been released for the 2020, and we're going to talk about the older ones. But because you are going to be shelling out, thousands of dollars, a minimum of close to $1,000 for a machine, you definitely want to know which machine you should get. So if you're a professional and you do all of your work on a computer and performance is one of the most important things, then you're going to want to get the 16-inch MacBook Pro because it's got the 6-core and 8-core processors, up to 64 gigabytes of RAM, and essentially it means that if you're doing applications like 3D modeling, if you're doing video editing, and your work is so important that if you don't do it, that you run your own business and you might go bankrupt, and this is the machine you want to get. And the reason for that is because it's going to last you a really long time. And say, for instance, if you're compiling a video, it may take only 5 minutes to compile it, 5 minutes to upload to the internet, as opposed to, say, on the MacBook Air, it could take you 30 minutes to compile the video, 5 minutes to upload to the internet. You move around a lot. You want a machine that's light. Definitely go for the MacBook Air because it is the lightest machine that they offer right now. That's the newest model. There is an exception though, the 12-inch MacBook, which was released in 2015 and is no longer being sold, is actually lighter than the MacBook Air. It actually set the standard for all of the new MacBooks that were being made after 2015, but unfortunately they stopped selling that one. I'm really not sure why, because it was an absolutely phenomenal machine. Who is the 16-inch MacBook Pro for? Well, if you have a living doing 3D modeling, if you have a living video editing, if you have a living requires you to work on your PC, you're gonna invest a fair amount of money. So you might as well get something like the 16-inch MacBook Pro because it's got the best expandability, 4 USB-C Thunderbolt ports, it has the largest trackpad, the largest screen. So think of it as like the best MacBook you can get. That's what the 16-inch MacBook Pro is. Now, I think that everybody can get a taste of what a MacBook is without paying $4,000 or $2,000 or $3,000. That's kind of why the 13-inch MacBook Pro exists and the MacBook Air. Which MacBook should you get if you're a student? Well, students don't have a lot of money, so probably the Air. If you got a little bit more money, go for the Pro because you're gonna get extra ports on this. You're gonna get a slightly bigger trackpad, and it's just gonna kind of last you a little bit longer. But if you are more modest, you need a computer, but mostly just for internet, mostly just for browsing, get these 13-inch Air. The 13-inch MacBook Pro is kind of the bread and butter. It's like the Audi A4 of laptops. It's the perfect size, it's got the perfect balance of everything, and you could really pick one up for about $1,000 to $1,300, and it's still expensive, but it is their brainchild of devices, and it's the one that they're going to sell the most. And so with the 13-inch MacBook Pro, when you get it, you can just expect everything to work out for you with kind of no issues, except that, of course it is smaller and you don't get the 64 gig RAM and all those other amazing things. The 13-inch MacBook Pro, again, could be for professionals, but people who aren't so serious about their machines and aren't so picky about their machines. And then the Air, it's really just for people that want the maximum amount of portability. And you might think, well, what's the big deal? The 16-inch is portable and the 13-inch is portable and all these machines are portable. That's true, but the Air really is the newest, most portable device that they offer. So if you want the newest device and if you want it to be the most portable, then this is the one you're going to get. The problem with the Air is it's got the dual-core processor as opposed to the quad-core or dual-core on the Pro 13, and then the 6-core and 8-core on the 16. You're getting this thinness, you're kind of giving up a little bit of performance, and that may be fine. That may be fine. But you really have to decide what you're going to do with these machines. And I think everybody should try this machine. Essentially, with the Razer Blade 15, you're getting a machine that's like MacBook quality, but with Windows-based environment, and you get a really good graphics card. This bad boy right here, we got 64 gigs of RAM, which I only paid $300 to upgrade on this, as opposed to on here to upgrade 64 gigs, you need to pay almost $1,000. Really crazy what Apple does. I mean, Apple knows they have some of the best machines in the world, so they can really charge those types of prices. But on something like this, I have a 2080 RTX graphics card in here, which that has been one of the main reasons why I haven't not only have a Mac, but also a Windows-based PC. On Windows machines, you can get much better graphics.
When it comes to Sims on the MacBook Pro, it actually runs quite well.
I was able to get about 50 frames, 40 frames on high graphics. So when I reduced it down to low, I get about 80 to 100 frames, and it runs pretty surprisingly well. On Rust, you can't really play it even at lowest graphics. It doesn't really help. You can lower it to 800 by 600 to play at about 40 to 50 FPS. On Counter-Strike Global Offensive, you can play at about 45 to 50 FPS on high and 80 to 100 FPS on low. Now on the MacBook Air, Grand Theft Auto runs at about 25 to 30 FPS, which is pretty terrible. Kind of surprising that it seems like it's performing worse than the 2015 MacBook Air. Very surprising to see this. However, it still works. I mean, if you had to play it, you could enjoy it, but it's just not as nearly as fun than on the older MacBooks, which is kind of funny how it performs worse. Titles that don't require too much CPU or GPU, Sims 4 is actually playable. You can play at about 60 FPS on low graphics. Very happy about that. Games like Counter-Strike on lowest everything run at about 45 to 50 FPS, and you can still play it and still get some kills and just overall enjoy your gameplay with it. I was happy to find out that most games will run well. Now, AAA titles like Rust, even with sprite-based graphics, you can't really play the game. Like, this tree is just a sprite. It's a badly rendered sprite, and it still runs terrible. Rust actually performed better on the older MacBook Airs. First glance at 35 FPS, it doesn't look like it's too impressive. But one thing to note is we are running here at full resolution, which is like 3000 by 2000. Which is pretty impressive performance, and it's actually quite smooth. Graphics maxed, we're able to run at 1080p. We're getting about 60, 70, 80 frames per second. There are a few that the FPS can drop in. The fact that it has about double or to triple power that it's getting from its power brick. For more optimized titles like Counter-Strike Global Offensive, on max graphics with 1080p, you're getting about 45 frames, sometimes 50. Sometimes 35 in very dense areas, but overall it seems to run decent on the MacBook Pro. In Natural Selection 2, I noticed that it runs quite well on both Mac and the Razer Blade. On the Mac, you're getting anywhere from 50 to 100 FPS. You spend about $4,000, you can get yourself a 16-inch MacBook Pro, 64 gigabytes of RAM. You can upgrade the graphics card to have 8 gigabytes of VRAM. So you can have a MacBook Pro that can literally play all your favorite games. I'll have a video created that shows you how you can game on this machine and play all your favorite games on this device. And we'll also run some applications on this to see what this machine is capable of. But based on the spec sheet, and I have played around with the 16-inch a little bit, it's pretty impressive what you can do with the 16-inch MacBook Pro. And this is one of the first times they put a really good graphics card in a machine like this. It's pretty impressive. Let's say you're a professional and your life depends on your machine, right? But you don't have a lot of money to spend. You're a professional that's poor. I would recommend getting the 2015 MacBook Pro. What makes that machine good is it's the last machine that Apple made that's like the 2012 MacBook where you get all these amazing ports, but it has the Retina display, which is extremely impressive for 2015. Retina display works really well. It's got great colors, and it's a thin machine with an amazing trackpad and keyboard. Keyboard's not as good as 2012. Trackpad is perfect. I feel like the 2015 machine has the best balance of everything. It even has a SD card slot, which I find extremely impressive, because after that they just kept removing them. I mean, it was great. I really wish they kept some of these older ports. And it's crazy to think, in 2020 you can get a $200 MacBook Pro from 2012, and this bad boy right here can have 16 gigabytes RAM because you can upgrade it. You can control what you put in these machines. That's what makes the 2012 machines extremely amazing, because after 2012 you had 2013, and then the 2013 machines, it was harder to upgrade, it was harder to get in there, and then at that point you couldn't really upgrade the RAM very easily, and and then when the 2016 machines arrived, you couldn't upgrade anything. So see, this is why they stopped making machines like this, because they're too good. And this is weird. It's weird to run into tech that is so old and so good. And it's because back then they cared so much about the quality. They really, really cared. Like, it will blow your mind when you look at machines like this. People are throwing away machines like this. You have no idea how good they are. Let's say you want to spend $1,500. Well, get yourself either a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air, and definitely get 16 gigabytes of RAM. People are always wondering, how much RAM should I get? Well, you could get 8 gigabytes, or you could get 16 gigabytes. Here's some examples for you. If you get the 8 gigabytes, when you're browsing the internet, you got 3 or 4 tabs open, and maybe you're running some kind of application in the background. With 8 gigabytes, you might encounter some stuttering, some slowdowns. With 16 gigabytes, you almost never run into any kind of stuttering or slowdowns. So if you have the money, definitely upgrade to 16 gig. And that's gonna last you a really long time. I love the fact that Apple put USB-C on there, because let's face it, this is a topic you guys are going to be sensitive about, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. What's up with USB-C and Thunderbolt? Why did they just keep putting it on there? Everybody kind of agrees that we would rather have our old ports instead of USB-C, but the reality is, if you could have a port, if you could have any port, it would be the USB-C. Because on a 2016 or 2017, whichever MacBook you get that has USB-C, each port can do so much. Like, for instance, on a regular USB, you can't really do video, right? But on a USB-C, you can do video. You can do extremely fast Ethernet. You can push so much data. This port is the most capable port. And on a model like this, they put 4 of them on there. That is extremely impressive. That is extremely capable. But these capable machines, a lot of people resent them because they don't understand how to work with them. They don't understand what the point of them is. And this is why I believe that Apple should have put all the old ports plus the USB-C. But Apple's smart and they really want to make a lot of money, so they really decided not to do that, which kind of irks me inside, because they could have reeled in the people that don't understand USB-C with old ports. And then when the time was right, they would have used USB-C. But Apple is a trendsetter, so when they brought USB-C to all their machines in 2016, and then when they hinted at it in 2015 with the 12-inch MacBook, people just weren't going to have it. But it's 2020, 4 to 5 years later, we're still kind of not fully utilizing all of USB-C, which is interesting. I mean, you may have bought a machine from 3 or 4 years ago, and you're still kind of preparing somehow for the future. And the truth is, yeah, the USB-C, it really will prepare you for the future. And some people are living this future right now. With everything they're doing with their USB-C, it's pretty impressive what you could do with it. I just wish they could have had both. Take what's good from all the systems and all the beliefs and put them together. Don't take good things away. Keep the good things and take the bad away. Keep the good and take the bad away. Use what's great, but don't harm anybody in the process. And Apple's philosophy for a while has been, you're either with us or you're against us. And I don't believe in that. That's why I wish they kept these ports around, but also put USB-C. I mean, on a laptop, you need ports. You need ports because you need expandability, and you want to have versatility of how you work with your machine. And I guess Apple realized that the majority of people that buy their machines don't really use the ports that much. As we move more towards a connected digital age, almost everything is done in the cloud now. So do you even need ports? That's another interesting thing. Like on the 12-inch MacBook, released in 2015, love that machine. It was a great machine. 2012 and 2015, the best machines available. 2015, they only had 1 port. That to me is like some kind of like Zen Buddhist mindset where it's like, oh, we just need 1 port to charge the machine, or you plug in a hub that does everything else for you, because USB-C can just do anything. And lots of people, this really kind of irked a lot of people inside. But the reality is we're approaching a point where we might not even need ports, or we might not even need strong machines. In the next 5 to 10 years, I'm really not sure what's going to happen with our machines, but I'm thinking we're going to be streaming machines literally from the internet to our weak devices. I mean, the device will still be powerful. I mean, it won't be anything like this kind of power, but it'll be able to stream a device from a cloud, from like Oracle's database, something interesting like that. I mean, you're probably confused about what I'm even talking about, but essentially all the database and infrastructure is on a certain type of backbone that we really don't know anything about. But you know, we're already keeping so much information in the cloud, and what we'll do essentially is we'll have a computer you know, that'll just connect to a much more powerful machine over the internet, and then we'll use that to do all of our amazing tasks. But you know, then all our data is going to go everywhere, and you know, all the companies will have it. And at this point, all companies already have all of your data. With the 12-inch MacBook, I mean, they introduced the new butterfly switches. People didn't like them at first, but after a while, they realized they're actually not that bad. They introduced the larger trackpads, which was phenomenal. They had the new battery technology, which was just absolutely amazing. They used the TerraSol battery system where it's like it fits to the case. Overall, you know, they introduced USB-C, so they had a lot of new technologies on the 12-inch MacBook, which really did set the standard. And after 2017, they just kind of decided to not make it any longer. I think it might be related to Johnny Ive, the designer of the machine, leaving the company, and Apple just kind of deciding that they want to go a different path. Which is a little odd, seeing as Johnny Ive knew exactly what he was doing, and for whatever reason, Apple just, maybe that's why they got rid of the 12-inch MacBook. Maybe that's some kind of symbolic thing to get Johnny Ive out. Because with the new 16-inch MacBook Pro, they brought back the old keyboard with some improvements, of course, but it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel right. You know, the older 2015 and 2012 MacBook keyboards, they really did feel the best. But, you know, after you get used to the 12-inch and after you get used to the butterfly switch, it actually is much better. In the future, we're not gonna have keyboards. It's just gonna be a touch screen that you type on, and it's already been proven that this method works through our phones and through tablets. It really works. Once you get used to it, you really don't need that tactile feedback. So the 2019 MacBook Pro 16-inch is a really weird device because, you know, Apple was going one direction and then all of a sudden they turned around and they said, no, we were wrong about the thinness of the machine. So they made the machine thicker to improve the performance, improve the cooling. They no longer wanted to have these ultra thin machines like the 12-inch MacBook. So it was really weird that they took that different direction, because on the 12-inch MacBook, you had no fans, which is phenomenal. That right there, I think, is the future. 12-inch MacBook, it really is, I believe, the future. But Apple kind of went back on what they were saying, and they decided that they're going to try to bring back the old keyboard, like getting rid of the butterfly switches. I just don't understand why they did that. That was a huge slap in the face to everybody who adopted the butterfly switches. Now, whenever they get a new machine, butterfly switches are probably not going to be there, so they're going to have to get used to another keyboard. And, you know, some might argue, well, this newer keyboard is just better, so they're not going to have to get used to much. But that doesn't matter, because Apple went backwards in their belief system, and, you know, they got rid of some of their best people. So there's definitely some weird things going on inside Apple, but, you know, maybe it's for the better, and we'll just have to wait and see. But it really does have me a bit worried. Can't really hide, and yeah. Now, there is another type of machine which you guys probably won't consider, but throw it out there anyway, because me personally, I love Mac. I love Apple products. They're great. And there's a few stupid things about them, of course. Which company doesn't have stupid things about them? But this right here is the Razer Blade 15-inch machine, and this is one of my main machines. I honestly have both Windows and Mac OS based machines, and, you know, that's due to a lot of things like DirectX and support. It's overall kind of how everything has been structured. We can talk about that a little bit later if you guys have questions about why there's better graphics and better gaming on Windows. But Mac has almost caught up, but it's been really hard to get a good graphics card on a Mac as opposed to like on something like a Razer Blade. It's basically a Mac, but it has Windows. I wish you could install Mac OS. As soon as you can successfully do that, that would be really interesting. Well, sure, you know, you do have a larger trackpad, which I really like. It's so much like a Mac. It's kind of eerie. You got the speakers on the side, very similar to Mac. You got the similar keyboard. Speakers are definitely worse than a Mac, but they're still good. They're better than any other Windows machines you can get, but still worse than a Mac. You do get all the ports, which I really like. You get this nice keyboard, which is impressive. Not as good as what's on a Mac, but still pretty darn good. And you get a big trackpad, closer to what Apple was doing back in 2015. It's about the size of the 2015 one, just a little bit larger, but still not as good, because see, you can click here at the bottom, but you can't click at the top. That is just dumb. Like with a Mac, you can click at the top. as well. And I'm really surprised nobody has caught up to this yet. And this right here, the reason I got it, you know, because it's upgradable, it's got great specs, it's got great performance. And there was a few annoying bugs that I ran into, like I kept crashing while doing video editing, which was really odd. So if you guys want to consider a machine that's a little bit more affordable with upgradability, kind of like the 2012 MacBook Pro, you get upgradability on this. You do get the amazing metal unibody design, which I really like. And if you guys want to know what this machine is like, check out some of my videos. If you have questions, I'm definitely standing by to help you guys out. A lot of people are wondering, how does something like this go against a 16-inch MacBook Pro? Well, we're going to make a video about that, and we're going to tackle both these machines together and see which one is the best device. Honestly, they're both so good, but you should definitely subscribe to check out that video. This is going to be really awesome. So there's one feature that Mac has that almost no other machines have, and that's being able to open up the device with just one finger with ease, and the device doesn't move around. So on a traditional machine, when you try to open it up, it moves around and it's just hard to open the device. You gotta almost pry the device open just to get at it, which I absolutely hate. Watch how easy it is to open this up. Easy to close, easy to open. Look at that, look at that. Look how easy that is. That is amazing. I have noticed some brands like Razer Blade, which you can kind of do that, but you know, even though Razer Blade is trying really hard, there's a lot of things that just still, you know, I like it because I can tell that Razer Blade, you know, they have something kind of like that, you know. See how hard it is to open this up? You can still do it when it's like on a desk. When it's on a desk, for instance, you can still do it, but the notch, it's too small. I can't get my finger in there. And it's like, come on, guys, you have a good example right there. Just for 5 years I've been talking about this, and I still can't open up my machine. What is going on here? Watch how hard it is for me to do this. I can like almost not even do it. See, I can do it, but now this is on a Razer machine. On any other Windows-based machine, it's almost impossible to do, and it's frustrating. And it's cool to see that at least Razer's listening, and Razer pays attention to the other brands and what they're doing. But if they could just make the notch a little bit bigger, they can just ease up the tension on the screen, you know. At least they made this full RGB, and they also give you an option for Adobe RGB color-based screens. So the color is literally almost as good as like what's on a Mac, but the Macs use the P3 color gamut, which is even better. I mean, there's some overlap, but yeah, it's cool to know that a device like this exists. And even though it's not perfect, you know, I still get that nice graphics card, and I can see that they're striving towards it, and that's what matters. Even though the notch isn't perfect, and even though it's not as even though it's a little tense, because the idea, the gesture that they're trying to do it, that makes it almost as good. So if you guys have any questions about these specific machines, please leave a comment down below, because I will be replying to all comments. If you're uncertain whether an application will run on a specific machine or whether a device is right for you, just give me a little bit of information about yourself and let's have a discussion down below. A lot of people are wondering, you know, MacBooks are expensive. Even the most affordable one like the Air, it's gonna cost you a minimum of $1,000, right? Well, there is a way to save money on these MacBooks. You can get a refurbished MacBook that's literally just as good as a brand new one, but they sell them for 30% cheaper. And I'll have links in the description below for that. But essentially what they do is anytime there's a problem with a machine or somebody returns a machine, they make it a refurbished device. And what they do, they go in, they clean the devices up, they spruce them up, they fix whatever's wrong with them, and then they sell them from 30% discount. That is absolutely insane that they sell them for that cheap. You know, anybody getting a MacBook should just get a refurbished machine, because you're just going to save 30% right off the bat. Now, what's better than saving 30%? Saving 50%, maybe even saving 60%. I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. So one of the best ways to get an affordable MacBook is getting something that is used. Get a device that is used. So for instance, like this 12-inch MacBook, you can pay $450 for one, maybe even less, maybe even $300, and it'll be just like a MacBook Air, but it'll actually be even more portable, no fans, no annoying spinning fan noises, and it's all over the internet on eBay or Amazon, and it's cheap, only $450. That's how much some of the newer machines are going for, but instead you get that amazing MacBook quality. Now, definitely consider used machines, and there's a bunch of different eras for you to consider. From 2013 to 2015, that was one generation that I really liked. They had the best keyboard, they had the most amount of ports, and then there's another generation to consider, and that's the 2012 generation. With the 2012 generations, they actually had an even better keyboard, believe it or not. Something's up with Apple and the way they think about things. They've been doing some crazy different thoughts about how keyboards should work, and you know, in 2012 they really did have the most travel, best tactile feedback. Even the 2016 MacBook Pro keyboard doesn't feel as good as a 2012 keyboard, and that is just a weird concept to think about. But essentially, Apple is always trying new things to see if maybe they've figured it out, and that's why we've had all these different keyboards. And one thing that makes the 2012 MacBooks extremely unique is they actually had a 17-inch MacBook Pro. They had a 13-inch MacBook Pro, and they also had a 15-inch MacBook Pro. I mean, that's crazy. A 17-inch laptop? Almost nobody these days makes good 17-inch laptop. What'll blow your mind even more is that these laptops from 2012 are still being sold online on eBay and refurbished websites, and they still work almost as good as some of these brand new ones. And here's another thing that'll blow your mind. You can actually upgrade them. All these machines, ever since 2013, Apple kind of stopped allowing you to upgrade your MacBook as much, and they kind of been going in a different direction where they want you to just buy a machine, they want you to max out the specifications at the checkout, so obviously they can make the most amount of money, but so you can also have a kind of a device that's sort of future-proof. That's kind of the whole concept, to future-proof your device and to also not worry about the specifications so much, because you get one good machine and it lasts you 8 years, it lasts you 4 years if you don't take good care of it, or maybe even for some it could last you even 10 years. I mean, think about it. There's some people out there still using a 13-inch MacBook Pro from 2012. I actually have a friend who recently asked me to repair his 2011 MacBook Pro, and this thing's amazing. It still works so good. And part of the reason why is it was one of the last MacBook Pros that Steve Jobs worked on. Back in those days, you wouldn't see things like the butterfly keyboard, or you wouldn't see really weird things like you just wouldn't see stupid things in the design. The design would be really good, and Steve Jobs really appreciated working with his team. I mean, even though he was kind of a tyrant, he still did a really good job with his machines. Because of Steve Jobs and his team, they introduced Unibody MacBook Pro. And with this machine, you could upgrade the hard drives. You could upgrade the RAM. It was easy to take apart and service the machine. I'll be showing you in this video how that actually works and why that's such a big deal. Because a lot of you might think, well, what's the big deal? Who cares if you can take apart your MacBook or not? Well, it matters, because listen, if you want to tweak your device, if you want to fix it on your own, you can. Right now, the way these new MacBook Pros work is essentially they're boxes that people don't know anything about them. They're these magical machines that just don't know anything about them, and you can't fix them if there's a problem. If there's a problem, you gotta go to Apple, and sometimes you've got to pony up a lot of money. Also, the 2012 MacBook Air is going for $300. This is an absolutely amazing deal right now, and it's been like this for a couple years now. You can get these used MacBook Airs, and they just work. They work so good, and they're so portable, and they also have all their ports. It's really impressive that they were able to do that. Again, you're probably still wondering, which machine should I get? You're probably so confused about it. You know, all this information I just told you. Okay, here's the thing. Here's how to think about which MacBook you should get. So the first thing you want to do is determine what the machine will be used for. Are you just going to use it for browsing, running Word, doing homework, doing student-related type activities? What are you going to be doing on your machine? If you're going to be using it for simple things like that, highly recommend the MacBook Air 13-inch. You can get the newest one for about $1,000 to $1,300. You can get the older MacBook Airs, which are still really good. You can get a 2012 MacBook Air for $300. That is just absolutely insane price, and you can scale that. So let's say you want to play some video games and you're a student, you can get yourself maybe a MacBook Air for $600 or maybe for $800. You know, it really depends on what you want to do with your MacBook and how much you want to spend. So determine what you will be doing with your machine, then determine what kind of money you want to spend. So, you know, if you're extremely tight on money, consider used and refurbished options. If you have more, you can consider still used and refurbished options, but newer year. So let's say you only have $300 to $500. Well, then consider MacBook Airs from 2012 all the way up to 2017, right? And if you have up anywhere from $500 to $1,000, I would consider maybe the newer MacBook Air, or maybe 1 or 2 years older, refurbished or used on eBay or Amazon. And I'll have links for that in the description below. And if money is really not an option and you want good performance, you want new technologies, definitely consider some of the newer machines.
Thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe if you guys want to see more videos. I am looking to get more subscribers. And yeah, if you have any questions about these machines, let me know. I do still have them, so I can do testing for you guys. And since I have used quite a lot of machines, definitely want to share that knowledge with you guys. All right, see you in the next video. Cheers.